G'day, Coit here. This is part 2 of my little look at the update 48.4 SLA casting Divine Disciple Cleric. We've got the character up to level 18 now, and we've made quite a few refinements to it. I'm happy to report that this character has had no trouble leveling solo elite. From 15, she's actually up to 18 now. I've been working on her after this video was made. In fact, I've just come from my Veil run of all the Veil quests on elite to Shroud Flag, and have had no trouble whatsoever. We've made a few changes here. There's been quite a bit of gearing going on. When I cracked 18, I decided to give her a customized set of gear, which would maximize her damage and maximize her survivability. You can see the stats there. We've got a good amount of light spell power there. We're over the 300s now, which of course applies to your light and your fire damage. And I've had quite a bit of practice with this character now and have really got the hang of what it can do. There have only been 2 quests in the game to date where I've had to use mnemonic pots. I had to drop a couple of mages during Creeping Dust, because as you know, you've got to use your destruction if you don't want to kill any spiders, and it's expensive, especially when you're soloing and you have to go the whole show just off one character's spell pool. And Coalescence Chamber, but the less that's said about Coalescence Chamber, the better. Solo runs on that are it's a rite of passage in DDO, I think, at level. But in any case, those are the only quests where it's even approached the point where I've had to use mnemonic pots. So the SLA spell cost and the amount of damage that these SLAs can put out is actually extremely useful and practical and viable, at least in the heroic levels so far. I was able to remove the ranger level in the character. It is now a pure cleric, of course. I have found a couple of the Aasimar Scourge enhancements to be quite useful. I'll be hoping to take the full lane of the full row of Arcanum to get that spell pen right up. There was a couple of creatures in the Veil that blue shielded me. The mages. They've got pretty high spell resistance, but that's about it. Other than that, my DCs have been rock and roll. You can see here I'm doing an elite run of one of these Sharn quests, and I think that's a real acid test these days. It's all well and good to go do Giant Hold and some of the older quests, but where it's at power curve wise and the quests that are tuned towards viable builds, Sharn, you've got to get in there and do some elite Sharns. If you can do those, then you're looking okay. I don't think you're a gimp. I have had to dip into the Radiant Servant tree a bit, and I have had to sacrifice all melee ability. So I've removed all melee ability from this character. There's no falconry anymore. I will put a screenshot of the enhancement tree up when the character gets to 20. That'll be part 3 of this video series. Probably end up doing like a 4 or 5 part series, 1, 2 and 3, 15, 18 and 20, and then a couple more during the epic levels to make sure that this character stays viable in the epic levels. I have had characters in the past that have really shined in heroic, and you get them into the epic quests and the damage just doesn't scale. So we want to make sure that's not going to be the case before people go out and build this. But I can say if you were leveling from 1 to 20, it's definitely a goer. If you did have your Reaper points up, I see no reason why you couldn't R1 solo your way through the whole show, if not more, depending on the state of your Reaper enhancement tree, of course. I still don't do a lot of Reaper, so I just do my heroic elites. I haven't had a problem with DCs. Destruction's been good. I like to use Symbol of Persuasion occasionally to get me some workers, and that has had no trouble capturing as many people as ran through the symbol. And that is, of course, on Elite. I did an Elite tour while I was at 17. I do have a video of that, but I'm not going to put it up because tour's a little bit long. Unless somebody wants it. If you want to see Elite tour at level on this character, sing out, I can put it up. Great run, no problems. In fact, all the way through, not only has the character been no problem, but it's been fun. I mean, it really is a lot of fun to play a Divine Caster that is capable of full party heals. You've got a class that is fantastic to solo with, but is also welcome in any party. I have paid some attention to the character's turn ability. Now, that's not something that I've had much to do with in the past. I always thought it was a bit of a weak ability. But the ability to turn elementals in the fire domain is really handy. When I was in Rainbow in the Dark, being able to turn all those earth ellies was extremely useful without dipping into my spell pool. Air ellies in Ritsack, no problem at all. What I've done is I've actually crafted a shield which has Hallowed and Silver Flame on it. I get bonuses to my initial roll to see if I've got the ability to turn, and I also get bonuses to the maximum hit dice when I do have a successful turn. And I also have Seek Eternal Rest as a buff in my permanent buff bar. There's another +4 there to your turn ability. And I have paid attention to maximising Charisma. Three stats that are as maxed as I can get on this character without resorting to exceptionals. Con, Wisdom, Charisma. Pay attention to those and you'll do extremely well. The sacrifice of the melee ability has really not been something I've noticed because they rarely get in range. If they do, I tank up and wait for my cooldowns. I do still live on the SLAs more often than not. It's really in the boss fights that I will resort to dropping my normal spells. They still do remain very expensive when they are heightened, empowered and maximised during the heroic levels. And it's been interesting as well to become a bit more familiar with which creatures are evil, which creatures are outsiders, and which creatures are merely misled good characters, because your SLAs, one of them in particular, is highly dependent on the alignment of the creatures that you're whacking. So using the appropriate SLA for the appropriate creature involves kind of knowing your enemy a little bit. That's been fun. It's been good to play around with. And I really got no complaints about how the devs have adjusted the potential power of this type of character. I would love to see more people playing clerics in the game. I've always been a staunch cleric player. I think it helps grouping. And when it's fun to do, people are going to do it. When it's a bloody chore, of course it's not going to happen. You know, that's something that can only be good for the game in general, as well as giving you a fun class to play. And for those who are just breezing through the cleric levels to get their completionist or triple completionist, or just making sure that their caster's conjuration is maximised, it gives you a good alternative to the PDK, two-handed fighting, maul-wielding Radiant Servant, which it's okay, but it can be a little bit on the tedious side. I find melee's that way in general sometimes, which is why I end up playing specialists more often than not, your bards, your wizards, I find Sorks a bit meh, even though they're extremely powerful, don't get me wrong. Rogues, love rogues. If I can put a rogue splash into something, I will. If I could have put a rogue splash into this, I definitely would have, but I think it would have diluted the character's power far too much for far little gain. When you get to know the quest quite well, I mean, you can get around traps. They're a thing. So as you can see, running through this Elite Sharn quest, it's been a bit of a breeze. You know, if you lose what you're doing, oh, here we go. We're going to have a look at the item spread here. So if you really want to know exactly how this character's geared, I've just one by one gone through. You may think that Shard of Zoriat's a weird one. It evened up my charisma, and I'm wearing a Master's Gift slotted. I am making use of the Amrath belts for Archmagi and for clickable boost to spell power. I think that's an underrated thing. The alchemical bonus does stack with most other things, and it can give you a welcome boost. I'm still rocking the Flame Cleansed Fury set bonus. I think that's invaluable, and to be honest, I'll probably be rocking that set bonus right through to when I hit 29 and put on the legendary version. The addition to the wisdom, spell DCs and spell power is just, you can't really get it anywhere else, to be honest. I am looking forward to level 23. There are a couple of items in the new version of the Catacombs that I do have my eye on for this character that I think may be useful. It's a shame that one of the better versions is a quarterstaff. What is it with the devs and quarterstaffs? Does anyone know? Like, quarterstaffs, really? On a cleric? I mean, that's not exactly traditional, guys, but yeah, whatever. So the shield there, and maybe situationally when I need to turn, I'll be using the quarterstaff. I think I may already have them on some bank characters, and if not, it's an easy farm. There's not much else in the way of gear I'll be chasing. Of course, all the nice sets from the Keep on the Borderlands are invaluable. To get a stat 10 with your insightful and quality on your main stats, that's really good. There's also a really nice turn item there, the Hallowed Gauntlets, that I'll have a go at. And of course the caster sticks that you get from the trade-ins with your ingots, with the spell power and exceptional spell power, will probably be equipped as well. Not too much else to farm, really. I have, you may notice, I'm not actually wearing a Marilith chain there. I had a Mirror of Glamouring in the bank, and I've glamoured up a Marilith chain that she had in her TR bank. Guys, this is just me arsing around right about here. I just wanted to see if the DCs were up to it. What I'm really looking forward to is when I go and do my Shavarath Elites out in Amrath to get my Amrath favour and access to the Yugo pots. Yeah, you can capture them. Good on you, mate. When I go to do those quests, that'll be a real test, because DCs out there on Elite at level, if you can punch those, then you really are punching above your weight as well. So soon I'm going to stop arsing around and release these guys and get on with the quest. Of course, it can't proceed until all these vermin are exterminated. But it's a nice little example that, you know, that the DCs definitely are viable. There's no problem there. Dipping into the Radiant Servant for the bonuses to turning was invaluable. I've also dipped into it for bonuses to positive spell power, raising the level of the heal spells. And you've got to remember too that everything that you spend in the Radiant Servant, every point that goes into that, in addition to a point of positive, also gives you, I believe it's half a point of universal spell power. So you're jacking up your overall spell damage all over for every point you spend there. Of course, I mean, the main focus here is going to be Divine Disciple. That's where I've ended up dumping 51 APs, and the rest will be going into Radiant Servant with whatever I can fit into the Aasimar Scourge. I would like to get the full line of Arcanum. Spell Pen is a thing. I've got the 2 Wizard Path lives, but you can never have too much Spell Pen. Some of the creatures in the game have got ridiculous Spell Pen, and we'll just see how viable it is in its current form when it gets into Motu, of course, because those Drow, infamous for displaying outrageous spell resistance. It's I remember when it first came out, it was a bit of a shock to the system for a lot of casters that previously had been top of their game. All right, not too much else to rabbit on about. As I said before, I've made this voiceover. I've just finished my Veil quests. I'm going to be going through the Lords of Dust chain next. I will probably not make another video until this character hits 20, but I see no reason why that wouldn't be the case by next weekend. I'll try and bring one of these out each week. If you've got any questions about the build, sing out. If you do like the videos and you do like seeing a cleric built this way in action by someone that enjoys playing it, you know what to do, mate. Share, like, subscribe, all that usual rubbish. So here we go, the end fight. I've got a ton of mana and I just dump it, mate. This is where I'm rocking Implosion, I'm dropping barriers, putting up symbols of death, and just not mucking around. This is where the Sunburst, Sunbeam and the Sunbolt come out to play. I generally don't use those during quests because they can be a little bit expensive relying on the SLAs. But most of the trash here imploded, to be honest. Yeah, the DCs are great. That Incineration's fantastic. In fact, there's not a single part of playing the character that I've got a complaint about. All right, well, you all have a good one. As I say, any questions, anything you'd like to see video-wise, sing out. Always happy to make another vid if there's any interest at all. I hope you all have a good one. Hope you all have some good chest pulls. And yeah, fat loots for everyone. Coit out.
Zelith shakes her head. Sometimes it's a stranger who holds the knife. Sometimes it's family. I let blood cloud my judgment, and I'll pay for that every day. But I'll keep going. I'll move on to the next crime and the next. You can't just stay inside when trouble rains down. Not even if it never stops.